Alright, so I was just going to go over the AC replacement on the Chevy S10 GMC Sonoma. So the original compressor was basically hemorrhaging oil out the seam in the middle there. So I ended up getting a replacement. This is a Sanden compressor, which is supposedly an upgraded design, has fewer problems, and a couple of the other lines and fittings were leaking, so I ended up just replacing the whole thing. So when you do this, you need to replace the condenser. If you've had problems with your compressor, especially if it's been kind of exploding contaminants out into the AC system, you'll have to replace the condenser. And to do that, you will have to basically remove this shroud here. It unbolts 2 bolts there and a couple across the front. And then behind the radiator is where the compressor lives there. This is a little bit annoying. You do have to drain the coolant out of it. And then you also have to disconnect the engine oil cooler lines here and down there. You'll get oil all over yourself. And then if you have an automatic transmission, there'll be an automatic transmission lines there, but I don't have that. I have the manual, so that's what you got there. Basically, the condenser, once you got the radiator out, is just 2 little screws, and it pops right out. The old one is actually over here, and so basically this sits down on the bottom, and it's held in at the top with 2 little rubber clips here. And as you can see, all the crap that was inside from the old compressor. Anyways, so I did have to kind of, the clearance here, I don't know if you can see, it was pretty tight, so I did have to shift the evaporator that I got. It was a GPD part off Rock Auto. I did have to shift the evaporator to the left here in order to get the hoses to have enough clearance with the radiator there, maybe like bend them a little bit. I don't know if that's going to destroy anything, but so basically it all came with the O-rings in there with the new hoses, and I attached those there, making sure not to tweak anything too bad. Then the other major thing I had to do was flush the evaporator. So whenever you, according to the AC compressor recommendations, you have to replace the condenser, but you can get away with just flushing the evaporator. The consensus that I've heard is that if there are residual contaminants in here after flushing, they will get stuck in here in the bottom, and they will not make themselves all the way back to the compressor. I ended up going with that. Just going to cross my fingers. It's possible it may go, but getting this out of here is called royal pain in the hoo-ha. You've got to take the tire off, inner fender, got to get the reservoir, the computer, blower fan, and then you got to pull it this way. Just didn't seem like a reasonable effort. You know, if my compressor eventually goes, then I'll admit defeat, but with this vehicle of this age, it's probably really not even worth doing that. So new receiver dryer, you got to transfer the sensor here, screw this on, make sure they're all connected, and beyond that you should be good to go. The only other note here was that if you look under here, the clearance is quite tight here with the this Sanden compressor. I actually ended up having to file down the nub there, and it comes with 4 of these standoff washers. I ended up using a little bit of extra clearance there in order to make that compressor fit. But other than that, it was pretty much plug and play. You've got your, I haven't quite finished hooking this back up yet, but you got your compressor clutch connector here. Goes into the connector on the other side, zip tied in. And then you should be good to go. Put the belt on. The other major thing is that this pulley is a little larger than the original, so I had to get a larger belt. I'm blanking on exactly what size I had to get. Say over there, but it is in fact slightly larger than the original belt. They come in pretty granular sizes, so you're going to want to, yeah, KNO. I had to go several sizes up, and that fit. You could probably go one notch lower than this. I think there's still some slack in the tensioner down there, but it fits all right. So other than that, not that bad of a swap. hopefully this is going to give me better results. The original HT6 compressors supposedly had a lot of problems with them, but yeah, it's a little bit of a pain, but I think it's probably better doing it this way than having your compressor fail on you. And so basically, now that we got that all set up, I threw the manifold gauge and the vacuum pump on it to make sure that we've got good pressure worth doing this. So this is also important because I used a solvent in here. So there's basically, it comes in a can. This isn't the only way to do it, but this is what they have at AutoZone. So it basically comes in a can like this, and you just kind of, I would recommend probably, if you're going to do it this way, getting 2 cans, and basically you can go in from the bottom of the evaporator. I did 1 can in the top, and then I blew it out with an air gun. So you basically go in there and then fill it up, run it through, try to catch a bunch of it. I mean, it does evaporate, so it's not the end of the world. And then I also went up from the bottom. Basically, this can, I took it and I put the solvent in until it came out of the top here and let some run through. Then I took it out, let it drain out, and you will have to hit it with the air compressor and a little couple times. You'll see it keeps continuing to come out, and it's important to do that so that you get enough of the crud that's in there along with it. The rest of the solvent will evaporate, but you need to get this sufficiently flushed that there's not, a ton of stuff that's going to be floating around your AC system. I put this compressor takes PAG 46, not PAG 100, I believe. So it's not different viscosity than the original HT6 compressor. So worth making sure all the oil's flushed out of here and everything. And then of course the condenser down there has been replaced, so that's all good to go. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, and then I put a good deal of the oil, about 8 ounces of it, into the compressor here, and then I didn't have an oil injector, so I just flipped these lines up and then poured the rest of the bottle of PAG oil down. I got the UV oil. I don't know if you can see a little bit leaked out there. But yeah, so basically then you pull a vacuum on it, and that'll help pull all the solvent out and the remaining moisture, if there is any. So I just ran this. I'm going to put a little bit of a vacuum on this just to make sure. It looks like it's holding quite steady there from earlier, so I don't think there are any leaks. Before there was I think every single fitting and everything, both valves were leaking, coming out the side of the compressor, the front of the compressor. It was a bit of a mess, but hopefully we should have AC. It'll be nice. This is my red GMC Clifford. You can see got myself the manual transmission here, and only 253,000 miles, so we should be good to go. So then basically I've got to refill the coolant here. It was worth changing that anyways. I'm not going to do a flush or anything. I was thinking of it, but the coolant was, there's minimal detritus in there. So once you're all set with that, you run the vacuum. So you can see if I run this there, and you want to give it a good go. And there's a good reference about, the further you get this vacuum, especially if it's colder out, you'll need to put more vacuum pressure on it in order to get the everything to evaporate, because the water boiling point is lowered by the vacuum. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Got these manifold gauges off China, and then you'll basically, once you've put a good vacuum on it, you'll be able to charge it up, and you should be good to go. I'm not entirely sure. Let me shut this off. I'm not entirely sure about the this situation here, where I've used a little bit extra here. I think I should, it may not have quite the correct torque specs, I believe, that you can run into problems, because this is going to be slightly tilted. I'm hoping it doesn't matter, but if the AC pump the compressor ends up exploding, I'll let you guys know. But all in all, not a very bad swap. Pretty straightforward. Yeah, this removing the radiator was not particularly bad. I was a little worried about that, but most of the problem is getting oil all over yourself. So, all right, charging her up now. By the way, these valves are garbage on these new EPA cans. They can barely depress that little thing. They're no longer the puncture style, so they're very slow. You got to get one of the better, more modern fittings. But this takes 1 pound, 12 ounces. So you basically zip that on in there, and it'll take a little bit to get going. But we've got the manifold gauges here. This is an aftermarket pressure switch because I lost the old one, but you can feel it kind of boiling away. And my Lord, what a beautiful thing. Old Clifford. Feel that nice and chilly right now. Ooh, balmy. So we're good to go.